Alright, we are on the draw here in match 2 of this league with Rug Delver. This hand's not great. We've got 4 lands. That's pretty much never a keep, I think. Vapor Snag's a bit situational. Mandrills is going to be slow, and what is Snapcaster Mage doing here? We're going to take a mulligan. That's better. That is, I mean, it's certainly not good, but it's much better. Mostly because of these 2 cantrips. The denial's going to the bottom because we already have one of those and I don't think I even want it. We're probably going to go fetch, visions, bauble, try to get a second land and a stream of threats. Pretty much. This hand certainly is not great. Perilous Voyage, I don't know how I feel about this. I kind of don't really like it. I like that it means we have a catch-all answer in the deck. But it looks really bad in opening hands like this. Looks like the opponent's on some sort of Death's Shadow deck. Cycling a Street Wraith into Fetch, Shock, Inquisition. Probably going to take the Visions. That's what I would take. Mulliganing against discard decks certainly hurts. Then again, imagine if we kept that previous 7 against a deck like this and they just take, I don't know, what would they even take? Snapcaster Mage? They can't take Mandrills. Do they even bother taking Vapor Snag? I mean, if they had a Thoughtseize, they would almost certainly take the Mandrills. I guess they take the Vapor Snag. Maybe the Snapcaster Mage, since eventually it becomes the Vapor Snag. I don't know. That hand's pretty much just as bad, though, against discard. The opponent thinking, I would have thought Serum Visions was an easy choice here, but maybe it's not? I don't know. Maybe you take Mana Leak? We only have the 1 land. Maybe they're worried that Mishra's Bauble makes Serum Visions at least somewhat redundant as far as cantripping goes, so they don't want to bother with the cantrips. I'd say Visions is definitely the strongest card in our hand. Perilous Voyage looking very weak, so does Denial. They went with Mana Leak, so I guess they're looking to resolve something big, and they expect us to have a land by the time that it matters. We picked up a Flooded Strand, which okay, that's lagging. I would normally play the Flooded Strand if it wasn't the only card they didn't know about, but as is, I kind of want to lead on the Foothills, get a Steam Vent, and then this Flooded Strand will get a Breeding Pool after. Flooded Strand showing its weakness in not being a Scalding Tarn right now. Scalding Tarn would have been just a little more versatile. Let's cast a Visions. See what we can get. Another land, 2 threats. Beautiful. How do we want to sequence this? Delver first or Mandrills first? Ooh, Delver first because we have a Bauble. Top both of these. Cast that since they know about it anyways, but we're not going to crack it just yet. First, we want to resolve a Delver of Secrets. Gotta say, finding 2 threats on top makes me feel like we might actually be able to come back from this. We had a very weak hand, and I'm assuming the average Grixis Death Shadow hand can just pummel what we had into submission. Here's an Opt. I wonder if they're light on lands. We have at least some incentive to go with the Stomping Ground instead of the Flooded Strand here so that we don't fetch away our Hooting Mandrills, given that we want it to be their end step when we crack the Bauble so that we can draw the Mandrills and then have Delver look at the next card. Not going to crack Bauble here. We're going to draw Delver. I think we're going to lead on the Flooded Strand anyways, though, so that if I really want to, we can fetch away the Mandrills in order to cast a Stubborn Denial. I don't think the opponent having a Fatal Push would make me want to dump my Hooting Mandrills, but just in case we want the option, it's there. We might end up taking a little more damage, or rather loss of life, due to shocking with the Stomping Ground eventually. Here's the Fatal Push. I'm going to let that happen. That does, however, make me want to use this Bauble sooner rather than later. I think I'm going to look at their top card here, since we already know what our top card is, and I definitely want to draw it. It's a Stubborn Denial. I wanted to not use the Bauble on our turn after they took out the Delver, because I wanted to make sure we didn't draw the Mandrills until their turn ended in case they had a Thoughtseize. We're still not going to crack the Flooded Strand, but we might after we draw a couple cards, Mandrills and whatever comes with it. 1 second Mandrills, alright. We're probably going to shock. I kind of like the idea of shocking. We probably want to fetch sooner rather than later. I guess just in case we draw a Snapcaster Mage. I don't really care to keep this Bauble in the graveyard since Tarmogoyf's the only thing it's going to help. Instant, sorcery, land, creature, that's 4. So the 5th card type actually is relevant for Gurmag Angler and Tassigur. So maybe I do just want to keep that Bauble in there. Let's shock. We don't need the second green source, so we might crack this now to grab a basic island. I want to cut down at least some of the damage we're taking here off of our lands. Delve a land. I want to leave the Bauble. Delver can probably go. Serum Visions or Mana Leak? We're more likely to have the mana for Snap Visions. There's also the fact that we're going to have Denial in the graveyard soon enough, which means we don't really care to have Mana Leak there, since we'll be snapping back Stubborn Denial. Maybe we'll snap back a Perilous Voyage if they end up resolving a Tassigur. That could be fun. Voyage, snap Voyage. I don't mind that. They're going to Scour, that's fine. We're not going to Denial that. They turned over a Thought Scour and a Shadow. The opponent with a lot of cards in hand. Ooh, Flooded Strand. I wonder if they're working with budget constraints too. That's exciting. I don't think we've gone up against a suboptimal deck. Specifically, this is a little awkward because we're going to Denial this Terminate and then they're going to crack this and Denial our Denial. Do I want to get that over with? It puts more cards in the bin for our second Mandrill, so I think I do. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to protect the second one, but alas. What are you going to do? I will not. That is not something I can do at the moment. I wonder if I should have played around that. I didn't have to tap that many lands. We could have delved more. Okay, more Mandrills. Well, we're definitely tapping all the lands now. Denial or Bauble? Snapcaster Mage or Tarmogoyf? Which one do we care more about? Maybe Goyf? Let's go with Goyf. So if we delved an extra card there, we would have been able to pay for the Denial that we actually knew about. That's definitely a consideration that probably should have been made. I feel like that's something I should have done. Now, if they have a Death Shadow here, I kind of want to Perilous Voyage it. Well, this is a Snap Terminate. Not that we could stop that. Which goes back to delving an extra card to be able to pay for their Denial. Which, I guess if I had Foresight, I would have thought maybe they go Land Drop Terminate. Stubborn Denial. We're really drawing on all cylinders here, though. This is quite fantastic. We are just getting threat after threat. It's ridiculous. I don't think this is even fair. We started with no threats in hour 6. We scryed into Delver and Mandrills on top, followed by Mandrills, Goyf, Thought Scour helping to fuel all of that. To be fair, They've had quite a bit of removal, but they're a mid-range deck. That's to be expected. We're not exactly playing a threat-heavy deck here. Now what are we looking to delve away? We're probably going to fetch out a basic forest here. They're not delving away all of those lands. Well, they might. They very well might if they really want to hurt our Tarmogoyf, but they could probably do the same for any specific card type we decide to just take out of our graveyard. So I think not cracking this to save a land seems a little silly. Should we want to hold up Perilous Voyage? Could theoretically save a Hooting Mandrills. Is that something we're interested in? I want to tap at least 2. We're not going to play around Stubborn Denial at this point. They don't play many of them. So we're not really going to assume that they're drawing another. We're not going to go out of our way to play around something that's not very likely. The question is, do I want to hold up mana for the Perilous Voyage? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could leave 3 cards in the bin. That's not bad. That's probably worth it. Let's get rid of a couple threats. Sure. I need to delve one more card. Goyf, Scour. Do I want to leave Scour? I guess it doesn't really matter. Snapcaster Mage can cast a Chart, of course, pretty easily here. Let's go to the opponent. If they have the Terminate, we're probably Perilous Voyaging Mandrills. Otherwise, we're going to save it for their stuff. If we could Perilous Voyage a Death Shadow, draw a Snapcaster Mage, and do it again, I would probably be happy. Oh, and we're gonna do this on their end step so that we get to scry and then draw. We're scrying with Perilous Voyage. This has never happened before. I really hope they don't have a counter. Don't have a counter? Please? Thank you. Feel free to just not draw a counterspell previously. Have one in your hand. Just don't. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Snap Denial. Well, they had it. That's unfortunate. That puts us in a bad spot. Well, we might just top deck something delicious. There's always that. Not entirely sure what we're looking to draw here. We're both pretty much out of gas. Well, Tarmogoyf's a start. Tarmogoyf is certainly a start. How many threats did we draw? 6? I feel like it was 6. I don't want to attack here because... Actually, does it matter? They can't... They won't take any damage if they block the Mandrills with Death Shadow. So their Shadow won't grow, take out Mandrills, and survive. So there's that. So we theoretically could get in there with Mandrills. In which case they block with the Snapcaster Mages. We trade, and we have the option to put them down to 7, but that makes Shadow a 6/6. I'm going to assume that not attacking is better. It feels better. Let's see. We drew Delver, Mandrills, Mandrills. That Delver, I think, was milled. Don't believe we drew 2 Delvers. So we're at Delver, Mandrills, Mandrills. That's all for exile. Goyf, Goyf, Mandrills. Yeah, 6. Not bad. To be fair, we're at 39 cards left in the library, so we've both seen a decent portion of our decks. There's a Fatal Push. Do they just have 2 removal spells? If they do, we're probably dead. Oh, or a Delve Threat. Yeah, we're dead. They are probably delving if they're spending that long to pay costs. Pretty sure the opponent has game 1 wrapped up. Gurmag Angler. Nice. Alright, so they're probably not going to attack. That or they just swing with the 3 of them and try to close the game faster, but they really don't need to. We could top deck another Tarmogoyf. Okay. Yeah, why not? I mean, that's what we do, isn't it? We just draw fatties. That's how this game's going. 3 Goyfs, 3 Mandrills, all off the top. Pretty disgusting if you ask me. So, The longer this game goes, the more likely it is that the opponent top decks a Fatal Push and starts closing the game with Gurmag Angler, which means I want to be attacking as soon as I can. So next turn that Goyf is turning sideways. The question is, what happens at that point? They chump with a Snapcaster Mage, maybe. They take it. Oh, if they take it, they go down to 4. Death Shadow becomes a 9/9. We chump the Shadow, we take a bunch of damage. If they have a removal spell, we're dead, but if they have a removal spell and we don't attack, we're probably still looking pretty dead. So I think we do attack regardlessly of that. Is there anything that makes me not want to attack here? I don't think so. I think any half-decent draw they have makes me want to attack just because it makes not attacking that much worse. What if we assume they drew a land. So in the case that they just hit a bunch of lands, what happens when we attack? They take the damage. Oh, okay. I'm not sure why, but okay. I'm going to block. They can't delve anything. I don't know why they made that attack. Do I want to trade with the Shadow? I think I do. Oh, no I don't. I see you. I see you with the Fetch Shock available. Do we die to the Fetch Shock? I don't think we die to the Fetch Shock. Shadow becomes a 7/7. That's fine, we go to 2. Oh, but that means we can't attack next turn, because Snapcaster Mage has 2 power. Oh, that actually was a pretty good attack for them. Or can we? They're at 9 life. Yeah, if they don't kill us, we win. I'm not sure why they made that attack. They scooped. Cool. Maybe they didn't notice. Maybe they misclicked. I don't know. Let's see how we're going to... Whoa, that's on the wrong screen. Sorry about that. How do we fight Grixis Death's Shadow? 2 Mandrill's gonna come out. Not so great at fighting on the ground. A couple Thought Scour's going to go because they're going to interact more than enough to fill up our graveyard. Let's see, 1 Lightning Bolt. Not that great. We actually didn't see any burn spells that game. Kinda good, kinda not so good. 1 Disrupting Shoal. I think I just have too much stuff. And 1 Stubborn Denial. What am I boarding in? Dismember is a card I certainly like. Savage Knuckleblade is good against Fatal Push. It can also get in there with the Delve Fatties. We're looking at a couple of Blood Moons. Now, according to my spreadsheet, in my infinite wisdom at some point, I decided that on the play, I'm running 3 Blood Moon, and on the draw, I'm only running 2. I think that's because, in my experience, sometimes Blood Moon is amazing, sometimes it just does... I won't say nothing, but very close to nothing, because they can rip apart the good parts of your hand, leave you with a Blood Moon, slam a Delve Fatty, and then you just can't afford the tempo. So I think that's my reasoning, but I'm not entirely sure if you should actually differentiate play and draw with the Blood Moons here against Grixis Death Shadow. Going to board in an Engineered Explosives because Death Shadow is scary, and 2 Huntmasters of the Fells. Huntmaster of the Fellses? No, Huntmasters of the Fells, just like it would be passers-by or brothers-in-law. That's how plural works. Alright, how many cards for Shoal? 13 1 CMC blue spells, that's not the worst. We also have a decent chunk of 2 CMC ones to counter the likes of Snapcaster Mage. Do I want to try to bring back this Stubborn Denial to buffer that a bit? We wouldn't be cutting any of these in that case. It would have to be something from one of all of these columns. I don't really want to cut down on any more threats, because we're going to need as many of those as we can get. All these cards that we boarded in look excellent. I'm not really keen on cutting Disrupting Shoal to make Disrupting Shoal better. So it's basically a burn spell or one of these 2 CMC blue cards. Perilous Voyage isn't necessarily great here. I mean, it's not awful. It bounces things. But it's really not great. I'm going to run it. Disrupting Shoal is not really something I want to lean too heavily on anyways, just because the opponent is going to be looking to attack our hand, and I don't really want to help him with that. This hand looks fine. I'd prefer if one of those Serum Visionses was a second land, but this hand is perfectly fine. On the topic of mulligans and discard decks, one of the things that makes this hand fine is that we're playing against a discard deck, and I would rather have this against them than a random 6. This hand is also fairly redundant, having multiple threats, multiple cantrips, technically multiple removal spells in Bolt plus Engineered Explosives, but those are radically different, and Bolt doesn't kill many of their threats. So that's not really a fair comparison. Engineered Explosives is also way better against them than Lightning Bolt is. So I would imagine if they're looking to discard one of our removal spells, Explosives is what they're going to go for. Here's the turn 1 discard. Let's see which thought they're going to seize. I could see it being Tarmogoyf, but then again we're playing against a Fatal Push deck. Maybe they just don't have enough Fatal Pushes to handle everything. Makes me glad we don't have an eventual Mandrills or Huntmaster in our hand. That's something I really hate seeing thought seized away. If we don't top deck a land, we're probably going to lead on one of the Serum Visions, as opposed to a Delver of Secrets. Excuse me, leading on Engineered Explosives doesn't seem like something I want to do. The main reason to lead on the Visions is so that we can hit our second land that much sooner and get our tempo that way, whereas playing out the Delver gets your tempo, you play to the board. Getting a second land on board means that, well, you have a second land on board. Alright, we have a second land. Makes me a little sad to show them that, but I don't really want to get anything but a Stomping Ground with this Misty if I don't have to. So our opponent's going to have perfect information for a time. Oh, Engineered Explosives, that's why we still have priority. Can cast it. Most certainly can cast it. There's a Street Wraith for the opponent. We might see a Death Shadow soon. Hopefully Delver can transform and start doing its job. Okay, now I'm scared of Death Shadow. If they could just not have one, that would be fantastic. Actually, if they could just have a lot of nothing, that would be great. Delver's going to die to a Stiff Breeze, so that's a little intimidating. Alright, well, they didn't do anything there. Island, not something we want to show off. Although, it might be something we want to show off if we plan on going Visions. Oh, they're pushing the Delver, so that's fine. Now, going Visions makes me a little sad that we have this fetch in hand, but on the other hand, we get to do a lot of cantripping, and if we go fetch, get a Stomping Ground tapped, I'm going to be at least a little sad. Is it worth it to make the Scry that much better to put off the Scry? That also saves us a non-zero amount of life because we're getting our Shockland in tapped. That might be worth it. Conserves a non-zero amount of information. There are a lot of little advantages to leading on the Misty. But the big disadvantage is we don't get the tempo from playing both Visions. That one would have a plural that is very funky, not like Huntmasters of the Fells. Double Visions, Misty Visions. Double Visions, Misty Visions. I don't know. If you guys have a good idea, feel free to leave a comment. I kind of want to go Double Visions, just so we can churn through the deck. But I also really want to go Misty Visions. I'm going to go Misty Visions. I don't want to ruin my Scry. Get that. Put it into play tapped. Do that. What do we got? Another reason I don't really want to go Double Visions now is we might draw into something like an excellent threat just for them to discard it away. Whereas if we hold off on some of the Visionsing, we can possibly use the second visions next turn, and then we'll be able to play the threat immediately. The opponent with an Opt on the end step. Opt is nice. That's a card I would run if we needed more cantrips. We don't really. Because it draws immediately, the Scry also doesn't have any synergy, whereas we have a lot of synergy with Scries in our deck, Thought Scour, Mishra's Bauble, Fetch Lands, Delver of Secrets. Often scrying is much more than a scry to us. When you scry one and then immediately draw a card, you don't get to do any shenanigans with that scry. You just get to draw a card. Then again, scrying and drawing is something great. Are they going to slam a shadow? Are they going to get rid of our EE and then slam a shadow? No, this is a delve threat. Okay, that's worse. Worse for us at least. Probably better for them. Well, we have 2 burn spells, and we have another red source. So if they go down to 5, we can close this. Now getting a red source means we don't get to get the basic forest and go Blood Moon, but I don't think I want to play around Blood Moon here when I have 2 burn spells in my hand. Let's start on Visions. I wanted to shock there in case we drew something juicy like a threat. Turned out we didn't, but that's acceptable. At least if they take a bunch of damage for whatever reason, we can start shooting them in the face. That's something. Actually, I might want to Tarfire and Bolt this Tasigur. I don't think I do, but I might. I feel like that's a losing proposition. Then again, taking lumps for 4 turns is also a losing proposition. But still. The real question is, do we loose these burn spells sooner or later? I'm going to say, let's use the Bolt first, since they know about that. I don't want to keep a bunch of burn spells in hand in case we draw more of them. So I want to get at least 1 out of our hand here. I'm not absolutely terrified of Death's Shadow. Alright, Dismember. That's a good pickup. We should probably play the island first. Not absolutely terrified of Death's Shadow, solely because we have Engineered Explosives in our hand. Now, if they have a Denial here, we're definitely going to be in trouble. Alright. Well, we sped up their clock. We did get a card out of their hand, but we also sped up their clock. I wouldn't mind a Huntmaster here. Gain some life, make some chump blockers. That's something I could go with. I would very much enjoy a Huntmaster here. Our Stubborn Denial looking quite poor. We haven't had any threats outside of the 2 we started with in that 7. Contrast with Game 1, where we drew probably 7 or 8 of them. And what do we got? Do I want to Tarfire here? Is there any way that Tarfiring here is good? We might draw Chart, of course, and then draw into 2 burn spells. That's why we should Tarfire here. Just in case. It's possible. It's extremely unlikely, but it's entirely possible that we hit that string of draws that just wins us the game. And if the top card is Chart, of course, followed by some burn spells, I don't want to miss out. How do we survive? Snap Bolt isn't going to do it unless they crack a fetch. If they have any sort of removal spell, Snap Bolt isn't doing it. We need the Snapcaster Mage to chump block their Tasigur. I kind of want to snap the Serum Visions. Hopefully we top deck a Hooting Mandrills. That'd be nice. Something we can cast this turn. Let that resolve. Blood Moon. Well, we have a Huntmaster on top. If they don't have a removal spell For the Snapcaster Mage, we're going to try to gain some life and make some dudes. Then again, they have 4 cards in hand, we haven't had a creature for a while, and they have a bunch of removal spells in their deck. So chances are we are dead here. But at least we get to be on the play in the next game, so there's that. Yup. Snapcaster Mage down. Tasiger's gonna get in there. Ironically, if we didn't cast that Dismember, well, I suppose they could have stubborn denialed the Serum Visions in that case. But if we didn't cast the Dismember, we would have had 4 extra life, which means 1 extra turn, which means maybe drawing that Huntmaster in time. So apparently on the play, I cut 1 more Mandrills and bring in 1 more Blood Moon. I guess the threat density is about the same since Blood Moon is pretty threatening to their deck. So I don't have too many qualms in that case. I guess that's okay. I don't really like cutting that many Mandrills, but it really is quite poor against the likes of Tasiger and Gurmag Angler, and even a decently large Death Shadow. It's good against small shadows. It's great against Fatal Push. It's just really bad against their creatures. The opponent is sideboarding some more. Let's see. What is there to talk about? I could see boarding out more burn spells since these don't really do that much. We're going to be on the play. Please and thank you. What do we got? We have... yeah, okay. 4 lands isn't great, but our curve is higher. We're going to go turn 2 Tarmogoyf, turn 3 Blood Moon. Naturally, they're not going to let us do that, but we're going to threaten it. And that's really all that matters. Probably going to hold on to the Flooded Strand. Use that to fetch out a basic island. We don't need to fetch. Go to them. I'm fully expecting them to have a discard spell, but if they take the Blood Moon, at least the Tarmogoyf gets to resolve. Naturally, that's not fantastic, but hey. It's something. And I don't think this hand is worth mulliganing. Not against Grixis Death Shadow. Against an aggro deck, probably want to mulligan it. I'm not sure why I have Chart, of course, and Blood Moon in against an aggro deck, but maybe. No, I don't have any aggro decks off the top of my head that I want that against. Nihil Spellbomb, that's gonna laugh at our Tarmogoyf. But that's okay, because if they spend their next turn dealing with Tarmogoyf, that means Blood Moon might just resolve. And you know what? If we have Blood Moon resolve, while we can cast spells and they can't, I'm gonna be happy. Untap, draw a card. It's another Blood Moon. Alright, well, we're gonna Tarmogoyf. Get a basic forest. Cast that Goyf. It's not a big Goyf, but it's a Goyf. A Goyf is a Goyf no matter how small. Alright, we're gonna fetch out a basic island. We're gonna cast a Blood Moon. We're gonna hope that's enough to stall them significantly. What do we got? What do we got? We'll probably follow up that Blood Moon with a Chart, of course, just to churn through some cards. If they have a discard spell here, I imagine it would be used on the Chart, of course. Doesn't look like they do. Let's draw a card. EE, that's fine. I'm going to go get an island. Let's see what we can do. That's fine. They want to draw a card. Can't blame them. I like drawing cards too. That's why Chart, of course, is in the deck. I've actually been very impressed by Chart, of course, in these last 5 leagues, including this one as the 5th. Let's grab our island. Every now and then I want to play the Traverse build again, but I actually really like the Chart, of course, build. Alright, so Blood Moon's going to resolve, and I don't know what they're going to do to that. EE continuing to be a bit of a pain. Not sure how many spells they can cast. They're probably going to need to draw into some basics. Our top decks are quite live. Oh, hey, Huntmaster. Nice to see you. That's going to gain us some life and make a couple bodies, even if they have a lightning bolt. Maybe they have 2 bolts. That's fair. They could have 2. Then again, it's still a 2 and a bit for 1 in that scenario. Huntmaster's great. I love Huntmaster. People say Tarmogoyf is the reason to play green in Delver decks, and I wholeheartedly agree. Tarmogoyf is the bee's knees. It's the nuts. It's just fantastic. Every time I think of playing a Delver deck that doesn't involve both red and green, though, I just think about how much I'm going to miss Huntmaster. I mean, Sultai sounds so cool with Collective Brutality for some extra reach. You'd probably play a non-zero amount of Simic Charm to help with that as well. But, oh man, Huntmaster of the Fells. Forget about Blood Moon. I could probably live without Blood Moon. I don't think I could survive playing Delver without Huntmaster. I just don't know if I'd be able to do it. There's a Dismember on the Huntmaster. That's okay, because we're going to chart a course with this Wolf. Spell Snare. That's a nice one to have. Let's get in there. And we're going to load up on cards. Chart a Course, a card I like very much against mid-range decks. It's also at least somewhat decent in Game 1 when you don't know what the opponent's up to, because it just goes with attacking and drawing cards. And we like attacking and drawing cards. It's just what we do. So Chart a Course is just cohesive to our general game plan. I'm probably going to crack this now. I guess besides something like a Mana Leak, there's nothing we can really draw. Do I care to draw Mana Leak? Not that much. They would need a Delve Threat and a Swamp. Then again, the reason to not crack this immediately is if they have a discard spell in a Swamp. So I don't think it actually matters that much. Maybe you do crack it right away just in case. They drew it. Well, they didn't draw. They're going to draw a Thoughtseize soon enough. We're going to draw 2. We draw 2 off chart. We draw 2 thanks to Bauble. We just draw 2 with this deck. Alright, well, we've seen all 3 Blood Moons at this point. Do I care to cast a second Blood Moon? It puts down Shoal for 2. Do I want to hold up Shoal for 2? Well, I'm going to cast it right now, actually. Or do I go for the Spell Snare? We could Shoal, pitch Shoal, and hold up Spell Snare. A lot of options. Not sure which is the best. We can tap out to keep our cards intact. I kind of want to keep Spell Snare up, so I think I'm going to Shoal Pitch Shoal. In which case we may as well cast the second Blood Moon, because now there's no longer an opportunity cost there. Fantastic. One decision flows into another. Did I mention that I love this deck? I love this deck. This is fantastic. Look at the decisions. Look at how they interact. Kind of awkward that I used the word interact in a game where turn 3 Blood Moon locked the opponent out of casting most of their spells. They drew Thoughtseize. Let's leave that up. I want to be reminded of the Thoughtseize just in case that's relevant. Lightning Bolt is certainly relevant. 2 more shots from this Wolf, and that Bolt is lethal. Snapcaster Mage going to be Spell Snared. Don't think I want to cast the 3rd Blood Moon at this point. Think I'd rather have the Lightning Bolt available in case they take 2 damage spontaneously. The 3rd Blood Moon also, I mean, Grixis is notoriously bad at dealing with enchantments. Maybe they find a way to deal with a Blood Moon. How are they going to deal with 2 Blood Moons? Here's an opt, that's fine. Means no more Snapcaster Mages unless there's another island. Also means no counter spells unless there's another island, which means that Bolt is probably going to be lethal. Do we use it now? There's not really reason to. Just in case maybe they draw a Lightning Bolt of their own, take out the Wolf, and they're left at 2 life. That'd be a little awkward. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case, though. And drumroll. They scooped. Fantastic. So, 2-1 against Grixis Death Shadow. That was fun. We're currently 2-0 in the league. Pretty good way to come back to Magic in the new year, if I do say so myself. I'm going to knock on wood because I don't want to jinx this league. It's been fun so far. 2 mid-range decks, Mardu and then Grixis. Anyways, hopefully you all enjoyed that video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.